All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to leave up holiday decorations year-round. Others have the need to use their garage as practice space for their new metal band. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.
Coming up on episode 225 of Wheel Bearings, it's just Robbie and me this week, and we've got the 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander, the Toyota Camry XSE Hybrid, the Cadillac CT5-V Blackwing, the Cadillac Escalade V, the Bronco Raptor, Ford and ADT hook up for security, no more BMW V12s, Lamborghini's going partially electric at least, all that and more coming up next. Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. This is episode 231 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abu-Al-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Roberto Baldwin from TechCrunch.
And Nicole, I think right now, if I'm not mistaken, is romping around Disneyland or Disney World with Rebecca. So she's not with us this week. So it's just us again. So you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So this week, so I've only had, I want to preface this that I've only had the vehicle for about a day and a half, 2 days, I have the 2022 Cadillac CT5-V Blackwing. Dun, dun, dun.
The real V.
For real reals, not for play. CT5. It is something else. It is. So it's I got the one with the manual transmission, 6-speed manual. It has a 6.2 liter supercharged V8. It has 668 horsepower, 659 pound-feet of torque. According to Cadillac, it'll do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds, and it'll do about 200 miles an hour top speed on a racetrack. It has a racetrack mode, as you're going through your modes.
No one should ever do something like that on a public road, ever.
Yeah. I don't know who would take this to. I guess you could. You could take it to a track. You're like, hey, I got this Cadillac. I'm going to take it to this track this one time so I can try to get to 200 miles an hour. Other than that, it's a Cadillac. You get inside, you sit down. It feels like a Cadillac. The seats it has the sports seats, but even those are really actually quite comfortable for sports seats. I know some people don't like them. I am actually a big fan of racing in sports seats. For some reason, they fit my body very well. I find them more comfortable than most of the seats I encounter in SUVs, which is an odd thing, but sure, why not? Driving it is it's fun. It's fun. I will say though, this is the first car in a very, 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 very long time that I stalled like right when I got in the car. Like usually you'll sort of stall, you'll be driving a car, a manual transmission, and after a day or two, or maybe within the first day at something, you'll stall it. This one I got in and I went to let the clutch out, and it is like a 90s sports clutch. It is just like a ton of tension, but then the bite, within the throw, the bite is super high. So it's like it feels like it's either off, down about an inch, on, and engaged, and then the rest of the time is just
so you can't really modulate it at all. It's just on or off.
You can. It just takes I had to drive it. The first thing I did was drive it into San Francisco. My wife and I had to go into the city right after they dropped it off. So, you can do it. And then it also has a hill assist, which typically I'm not really a fan of. But when it turns out this was the first time I was going to be driving this car, and I'd already stalled it, ended up being okay. Just because so about like halfway through the day, it was fine. I could like sit there, and sort of move the car back and forth on a hill, get used to the clutch. But it's pretty high. So if you buy one of these and you immediately stall it, don't feel bad.
Because even a professional like Mr. Baldwin here did it.
Who drives a lot of manual transmissions, and I was like, oh, my wife's like, what's going on here? I'm like, this is a very odd clutch. But yeah, once you get going, it's fine. I like it. I think the brakes could probably do with a little bit of extra something. I think they probably need about 10-15% more brake power, especially when you have all that other power in the vehicle. It's again 0 to 60, 3.4 seconds, and that 200 miles an hour on the racetrack. The person who buys this, though, I think they'll show off to their friends. They'll be happy they'll have a manual transmission. You get a nice sports sedan with a manual, which that's not really much of a thing anymore. You can get a coupe, you can get a Mustang.
It is pretty rare.
Yeah,
these days.
There's no more BMWs, there's no more Audis, there's no more. Yeah, it's a bit of a unicorn. It's fun to drive. It's rear-wheel drive, so that's fun. I will tell you that it takes a while to warm up these tires. It's these summer tires. What do I got on here? I got the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S summer tires on there. I took it out for a drive last night just because I was busy yesterday, and I drove for like 30 minutes, and the tires still weren't warmed up, and I was just like, okay, well, I got stuff to do. I'm going to be driving it throughout the week pretty heavily, so that'll be fine. But I wanted to get like a little extra something before the the podcast. And yeah, I can still do some. I still did some cornering. I still did some acceleration runs. But overall, no, it is an interesting vehicle. In a way that is a unicorn. It's you get a manual transmission, you get the sports sedan. It's comfortable. It has all those sort of accoutrements of a Cadillac. It gets horrible gas mileage, 15 miles per gallon. When I was driving it, I think I got to 16. This is combined. It starts at $83,995. The vehicle I'm driving, $113,445. That's with the $995 destination charge. So it's not cheap. Even if you just want the regular one, that's a lot of money, and that's a lot of money for a manual transmission. When you can just get a GR86 or a Mustang or a BRZ or a Golf, but of course none of those are in this class. That's where the weirdness is with this vehicle, is that there's nothing else really in that class. Is there anything else in the class? I'm racking my head trying to think of anything else that is a sedan.
I don't think right now in the U.S. market, I don't think there's anything else, because I think like the M5 is now automatic only. The Audis, no more manuals in the RS Audis. Mercedes hasn't had a manual AMG for ages. It's probably been 10 years. So yeah, I don't think there's anything else quite like that in the U.S. market. I think you can still get like manual transmission Audi RSs in Europe, like an RS6 in Europe. But that's about it.
So if you're in America, this is it. If you want, 6.2 liter supercharged V8 with a manual transmission, and you want to be fancy, this is it. This is all you get. The CT5-V, which again is the Blackwing, which is it's a really fun car. So far, it's a good car. I don't want to say it's a great car or it's a bad car. I'm just gonna sit in the middle and say good car, because I haven't had a lot of time behind the wheel with it. But if you're one of those enthusiasts that just really you want a manual transmission, but you got a lot of money and you want something luxury, I would check it out. It's a hoot behind the wheel. And again, don't feel bad if you stall it.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The previous, like the predecessor of the CT5 was the CTS, and the previous generation which was the third generation of the CTS. I think they offered a manual on the CTS-V on that one, right?
I think so. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. And then the one before, the second gen, they also had the CTS-V wagon, the sport wagon, with a manual. And the prices of those things are really starting to go through the roof.
Oh yeah.
So even though this one was over $100,000, you're probably going to pay at least 70 or 80 or more, if you were to find a used CTS-V wagon as well.
Yeah, and when you're looking at these performance vehicles, when you're buying used, yeah,
you got to be careful about what kind of life they had.
Every once in a while, I'll hear a story of somebody like a family or essentially someone dad age, 40s and later, who bought an STI, and his wife drives the STI, or and so they just never, it was never pushed to the limit. But every other, when I bought my WRX used, it had been used.
used as it was intended.
Yeah, used as it was intended, which also means that it's the life cycle of these vehicles, especially when they're driven hard, because that's what people buy these for. Is a little less than that of your average Camry or whatnot. So if you're looking at any performance car, you should kind of expect that. And so if you're looking at a CTS-V and it's 70 and this one's 80,
you might want to just go for pay the extra $10,000 and get the warranty on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I think the first time back in 2008, I think it was, I did the launch drive for the second generation CTS-V, and they did that at Monticello Motor Club in New York, and it was right when it was first opening. It wasn't even like the facilities weren't even all completely finished. They had the track paved, and they were still doing construction on the various facilities. And so we got to spend a couple of hours driving those things on the track, as well as driving them around upstate New York. And it was amazing driving that manual transmission with that supercharged small block. It was a fantastic combination.
I got to drive. 1 year at CES, Cadillac reached out and they said, "Hey, do you want a Cadillac to drive around CES?" And I was like, "Okay." And so they gave me a CTS-V in Las Vegas, which
during CES when there was lots of people there.
During CES, but it was also I think it was probably 2017. I found out that Las Vegas streets are notoriously slick. They're very slippery.
Really?
They're yeah. So they're the way and then it was sort of raining and it was cold. And
was that the year that we had the giant rainstorm on like the first day?
Yeah, I think so.
And there was all the flooding.
It was just me sideways everywhere.
Yeah.
Like just everywhere. It was outstanding. It was the best week. But like, the left turn signal, you're like sitting there and you're going. And if you just even like sort of modulated the accelerator a little bit more, the back end would break free. The entire time. It was on summer tires. Yeah. It's on it's cold, very slick roads plus rain. And so I remember the EIC got in the car. I'm like, "Hey, you wanna?" She's like, "No."
Nice. All right. Well, I had something a little more. Actually, I had two considerably more pedestrian vehicles this week because I ended up screwing up and got double booked with two vehicles. The first one I'll talk about is the 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander, which is a huge improvement over the old Outlander. The last time I drove an Outlander was probably about 2-3 years ago, and this is the Outlander is the first new Mitsubishi that was developed in the time after Nissan took over control of Mitsubishi, took a controlling stake in Mitsubishi. So this shares its platform with the new generation Rogue, and assorted other Nissan products. So it's got the same 106.5-inch wheelbase. It's got most of the same features that you'll find on a Rogue, including the Pro Pilot Assist, which when you put it onto a Mitsubishi, instead of the little blue icon on the steering wheel, has a little green icon on the steering wheel, and it's called My Pilot Assist instead of Pro Pilot Assist, because it's a Mitsubishi instead of a Nissan. But it's exactly the same functionality, and it works fine.
It's mine.
Yeah.
It belongs to me.
Yeah. Personally, I kind of prefer the design of the Mitsubishi over the Nissan. The Nissan's fine; it looks good, but I kind of like the look of this Mitsubishi. It's a little bit different, and it's ever so slightly longer. It's the same wheelbase as the Rogue, but the body is 2.5 inches longer. And so apparently with that extra 2.5 inches, the product planners at Mitsubishi felt that that's a good enough reason to add a third row into this thing.
All you need is 2.5 inches of legroom. That's all you need.
Yeah, well, that's not what you get. You don't. In mine, when I first opened up the hatch and leaned over and looked over the back seats, I'll include a picture in the show notes, but the back of the second row seats was right up against the front edge of the third row seats. So there's no leg room at all back there. You can slide the second row seats forward a bit, but even if you do that, you're still, it's basically for little kids at best.
All right. The third row, I know. I mean, I understand people want a third row. That's what people are like. I want a third row. I need a third row. And then the automakers will make a vehicle with a third row, but it's almost unusable. It's usable for about 6 months with it. But even then, you'd have to put your kid all the way back there, which means you're fighting with a car seat. And I guess it's maybe for dogs, because dogs could sit up there in that little thing, because they don't need leg room. They just sit right on the seat. Yeah, there you go. Third rows for dogs. That's all there are.
You can just fold down the third row seats, which is what I did. While I was taking photos of it, I just folded them down and I've just left them there. I haven't bothered putting them back up because they are basically useless. I mean, if you actually think you are going to need to use seating for more than 5 people, just go ahead and get a Pathfinder instead. Don't even bother getting one of these compact to mid-size crossovers. Just go for a proper third row, so that it's going to be useful for a longer period of time, and actual human beings can sit back there and have some place to put their feet. Because in this thing, it's useless. That aside, everything else about this is pretty nice. For the 2022 model, it has the same Nissan 2.5 liter 4-cylinder and CVT combination that was in the 21 Rogue. For 22, the Rogue is getting a new 1.5 liter 3-cylinder turbo, and that has a little bit more power and more torque. And we talked about that one a couple of months ago when I had a chance to do a brief drive with it. And I'm guessing that probably for the 23 model year, the Outlander will probably get that engine as well. The other thing that's coming later this year for the Outlander is a new plug-in hybrid variant. The old Outlander was available with a plug-in hybrid that a lot of people liked, because you could actually get a pretty good deal on those things. They were, it didn't have I think it only had about 15 or 20 miles of electric driving range, but because Mitsubishis were not especially popular, you could get some screaming deals on those things. I know a couple of people who bought them just because they got them so cheap. And so the Outlander will be getting a plug-in hybrid variant later this fall. I think it's already on sale in Japan, but we'll get it here later in the year.
Is this the one based on the previous design or the one on the new design? Because last year they had announced one on the plug-in hybrid that was announced. That was the previous design.
This is on the new. This is a new design.
Okay, yeah, because they essentially is like, hey, here's a plug-in hybrid that we've had in Europe for 2 years, but now you can have it here in the United States.
Yeah, they've had them here for a couple of years. So this is on the new design. So okay. the brand new version. Some of the other nice features that the Outlander inherits from the Rogue is the second row, the back doors, the second row doors open up to almost a 90-degree angle. So if you are, mentioned, getting kids in and out of that second row, maneuvering them into car seats and things like that, being able to open up that door nice and wide is a really nice feature. So you get lots of room. Of course, you do have to be careful in parking lots because yeah, you might end up dinging somebody else's door. But when you're maneuvering those kids in and out, that is a very handy feature. This one, has got assorted drive modes. There's a knob on the center console to pick through eco, normal. There's a tarmac mode, which I think is supposed to be a sort of sport mode, for dry pavement. Didn't really seem to make any difference. There's also a gravel, the snow mode, which those change the slip parameters for the traction control and stability control system. So you'll get a little better grip in those deformable surfaces. And I like the interior of the Outlander. It's nice. Nice materials in this one, well laid out. Like the new Rogue, it's got a much better screen than they had before. It does have support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You got the same electronic shift lever that's in the console that you have. If you've been in a 2021 Rogue and you get into this one, you will find a lot of familiar items. But the layout of the dashboard, the look of the dashboard is completely different. So it's a nice combination of the best of the Rogue, with a little bit different look to it, which is good. I think it's a good look. As these types of vehicles go, I found it decent to drive. If you're not crazy about CVTs, you might not be crazy about that, but unfortunately those are getting harder to get away from on a lot of vehicles. A lot of these size of crossovers have moved to CVTs, but it's not a terrible CVT. But that's about the only powertrain complaint I had. Fuel economy was okay. It's been really cold here this week. I've averaged about 22 miles per gallon. EPA rating is 26 combined, which when I've driven the Rogue in warmer temperatures, it's able to manage that without any problem. 30 highway, 24 city. So it's this one. You'll get decent fuel economy, and then later in the year when the plug-in hybrid comes, it should be substantially better than that. So. Let's see. All in, this one was the top trim level, the SEL. It also came with white diamond paint, which is actually just a very slightly off-white. It's like a very, very pale gray, but they call it white diamond. And that's like $600 option. Altogether, with the $1,195 destination fee, came to $38,950, which is not inexpensive. You can get, if you don't want all the options on there, you can get one, under $30,000, assuming you can find one, of course. Yeah. And a dealer hasn't put a $5,000 markup on it.
On a Mitsubishi, by the way.
Yeah. But, this is the first time, probably, I don't know, since I drove an Evo, a Lancer Evo, that this was a Mitsubishi that I actually really liked, that I thought was a decent car. It wasn't just recommendable because it was cheap. It's actually recommendable because it's a decent vehicle. So that's the 2022 Mitsubishi Outlander SEL 2.5 S all-wheel control, I guess is what it's supposed to be. And then the other one that I had is I've driven before on numerous occasions is the Toyota Camry hybrid XSE. So the XSE is the Camry trim that is the most sporty variant of the Camry. And
sporty in air quotes because it's Camry.
Yes, sporty looking. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, there you go.
And this one, has a nice bold red paint finish on it. And to be fair, this latest generation Camry on the current generation platform, like other current Toyota cars on the TNGA platform, is actually vastly improved from prior generations. It does have a lot better driving dynamics. Calling it sporty, sporty in looks. The Camry Hybrid is is a very pleasant powertrain, very fuel efficient, but not the most exciting powertrain to drive. It's has a combined 208 horsepower, but and it gets it's rated at 46 miles per gallon combined, 44 city, 47 highway. So it is really, really fuel efficient. But it's not going to excite you.
It's sporty like Sporty Spice, not sporty like David Beckham. Like, it looks
there
cool.
You go.
You'll have some fun, but it's not like raw.
Yeah, exactly. So this one's got the supersonic red paint. And with the XSE, you get the two-tone, the black roof, and this one also had the black wheels and lots of black trim. So it's got a little more aggressive look to it. And the XSE trim, the front fascia is a little more aggressive looking than on other Camry trim levels. The Camry's a very pleasant, very roomy, and very reliable vehicle. There's if you're looking for something that is going to start every day when you go out and press the button, and going to get you where you need to go
years.
For 100 years, and other than an occasional oil change, replacing some wipers, as they wear out, things like that. Putting tires on it, it'll basically run forever. As long as you put fuel in it, it'll run forever without any complaint. It'll just get you where you want to go, and it looks reasonably stylish, so it's not bad. It's got all the usual Toyota Safety Sense driver assist suite on it. For the XSE, this one came to $38,369, so just a little bit shy of of what the Outlander cost. You can certainly get, if you don't want the extra flair of the XSE trim, you can get a lower trim level Camry Hybrid in the mid-20s. So it's actually a quite affordable car. So that is the Toyota Camry Hybrid XSE in supersonic red, which is, by the way, a great shade of red. I do like the color.
I hope that it comes with like a little MP3 of JJ Fad, and it just like whenever you turn the car on, it starts playing Supersonic. For those who are probably too young to know who JJ Fad is in the song Supersonic, just look up Supersonic JJ Fad, and you'll have the best day ever.
All right. Smartphones have gotten way more expensive over the past decade, and all it takes is one impact on a hard floor to make you wish you had spent a few bucks to put a case on it. Going online without ExpressVPN is like not having a case for your phone, and it only costs a few dollars a month. Nicole, Robbie, and I travel a lot for our work, and we spend a lot of time in hotels, coffee shops, airplanes, and of course the Delta Sky Club. Connecting to the Wi-Fi in any public places with shared Wi-Fi puts your data at risk because bad actors could be intercepting what you send and using it to steal from you. It only takes some cheap hardware to intercept Wi-Fi data, and even a smart preteen can do it. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per victim selling personal information on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops the bad guys by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. ExpressVPN uses state-of-the-art encryption that would take a supercomputer up to 1 billion years to crack. I have ExpressVPN on all my devices, including a MacBook Pro, Windows laptops and desktops, and Android and iOS phones and laptops, or tablets. When I want to be secure, I just launch the app, click once to connect, and my data is secure. As I said, I travel a lot for my work, and I have to connect to countless public Wi-Fi networks in many countries. I have ExpressVPN on all my connected devices so that whoever else is on the same network can't see any of my data. That's important because I often have to check banks, credit card accounts, and transmit client data that might be sensitive, as well as filing articles on news that might be under embargo. ExpressVPN protects all of it, and I've been paying for my own account for years. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. That's expressvpn.com/wheelbearings, and you can get an extra 4 months for free. expressvpn.com/wheelbearings. Let's see what we've got next on the rundown. So we're recording this Sunday morning. Day before yesterday, Cadillac teased out, and it's going back to what you were talking about with the CT5, teased out the first shots of the Escalade V. Actually, I'm not sure if they're calling it the Escalade V or the Escalade V series. It's not entirely clear. And they didn't give any details about it, except for a few photos. It said more coming this spring. But there is one short video teaser that they had. It certainly sounds like it's got an LT4, the same engine that's in that CT5 Blackwing, which that would be good for a few laughs.
It'll be good for a little while. I don't know. That's a big car. The Cadillac Escalade is it is a boat. It is. I mean, when you look at the less luxurious competitor, the Armada. I mean, the name right there. So the Escalade is a very big thing, and then so you already have a lot of mass, and now you're just going to put a giant engine in it. So it's going to weigh more. It's going to be more powerful. It's going to be harder to slow down, I guess. People want these, but I think the desire outweighs the practicality of some of these very large. Like, it's a third row. This is what you get for a third row. Like,
yeah, if you want to carry some actual adults in there, in the third row, then you get an Escalade. You
get an Escalade, or you get a Navigator. There you go. Yeah. Carry everyone you've ever met in the one vehicle.
Yeah. Well, I think the LT4 and that's the supercharged 6.2 liter in the CT5. I think it's rated about 668 horsepower. And in the the Escalade has more room under the hood, so it's conceivable that it could because they could put maybe a little more free flowing exhaust on that thing. I'm sure in the CT5 everything's kind of crammed in there to fit it all in. So it could conceivably have a little more power in the Escalade. Not that you necessarily need it. I mean, just a standard Escalade with the 6.2 liter is a fairly quick SUV given its size, and it's also got quite a prodigious thirst for premium fuel. So,
what do you think the gas mileage on this thing's going to be?
I'm guessing it's
9. 12.
Probably 12 combined on EPA, and then maybe 10 city and maybe 15, 16 highway.
Yeah.
So it's and this thing is probably going to cost 130, 140 grand. Because and the last Escalade Sport I had last spring, I think was 108 or something like that. So I would guess you put an LT4 in there, bigger brakes, tires, high performance or performance seats, things like that. It's probably going to be in the 140 and 150 range.
You know what? It'll make it all better. Manual transmission. Manual transmission on a large SUV.
There you go. Perfect.
No one who's buying a large SUV wants a manual transmission. Like one person.
They'll sell 3 of them.
Yeah, one mom out there is like, I'm down for a manual transmission. She's like, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
She's like, you kids are not going to ruin my fun.
Be the first ever Escalade with a manual.
Sit down, shut up, hang on, we're going to school.
Yeah. Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Escalade is actually the best-selling Cadillac.
Oh, definitely. It has to be the best-selling Cadillac, just hands down. Or at least the one that makes them the most money.
Yeah.
It's the best selling. It's the cash machine. So they can really do whatever they want to it if they want. They can make like 5 of these and be like, it's fine because we make a ton of money off of this vehicle.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. All right. Speaking of higher performance SUVs, as we record this tomorrow morning, by the time you hear this, the news will already be out, is the 2022 Ford Bronco Raptor. This is something that has been rumored ever since they first announced the Bronco, that there would be a Raptor version of it, because Ford seems to be moving in that direction, creating Raptor variants of a bunch of vehicles. They've got the F-150 Raptor, obviously, was the first. They've got a Ranger Raptor that's available overseas, and my guess is with the new generation Raptor, we'll probably get that here as well, or the new generation Ranger. And now the Bronco Raptor. And it's going wide. Getting wide.
It is getting wide. It's got those giant, yeah. Of all the Raptors that they have, this is the one that makes the most sense to me, to be completely honest. Because you look at it and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Like an F-150 Raptor, I know people love that thing, but going really fast in a pickup truck, I'm always just like, all right. But going really fast or having the capabilities of just doing crazy off-roady things in the Bronco, I mean, that's what it's sort of built for. And then just make it just kick it up a notch. For the people who just don't feel like buying all the extra things to make their regular Bronco go, I guess what they want to call built wild to the extreme. I think this, again, it makes the most sense to me.
This thing is 9.8 inches wider than the standard Bronco. I think it's 9.8 inches wider than like the Bronco Sasquatch. 8.5 inches of extra track. Comes standard with 37-inch wheel tire package. They've beefed up the frame revised the suspension, so you've got 13 inches of front wheel travel, 14 inches of rear wheel travel. Fox shocks like you get on the F-150 Raptor. And this one also gets the 3-liter EcoBoost V6, which is anything but eco in an application like this. Which they haven't said what the power level is going to be, except that it's going to be 400 plus. And 400 horsepower, 415 foot-pounds of torque is what you get with that engine in the Explorer ST. So I'm guessing it'll probably be a bit higher than that, probably somewhere in the 425 to 430 range for the Bronco Raptor. Only available with the 4-door, no 2-door Bronco Raptor, and no manual transmission, only the 10-speed automatic.
Also boo, but what are you gonna do? It's they're already like making a niche vehicle. They're not gonna like make it even more. They'll, again, with the manual transmission, they'll sell 5 to like some hardcore people, and then everyone else is going to buy it and never take it off road. But it'll be fun.
Apparently, last time I talked to the folks at Ford, the take rate on the manual transmission Broncos is actually surprisingly higher than they expected. I think it was like on the order of somewhere between 15 and 20%.
Ooh,
which was really shocking that it was that much. But it's probably just the initial rush to get those, and then after that, it'll drop down to like 2 or 3% of sales.
That's I don't know. Take weights on manual transmissions. If your Bronco's not your main vehicle that you commute with every day, you're stuck in traffic. I understand not wanting a manual transmission, but if you have, let's say, a Toyota Camry or something else that you drive to work, and your Bronco is your fun vehicle, man, get the manual. Get the manual. Get the manual. That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Yeah. No. Actually, I drove the manual Bronco last June when I went to the first drive in Austin, and did a short route in the manual. And actually, especially if you do plan on doing any off-roading with it, I think I actually prefer the automatic. It's just less hassle.
Yeah, I know. I understand the less hassle thing. I like a manual transmission off-roading, but I'm also a weirdo.
Well, and the manual, I love driving manuals, but the manual in the Bronco is not the slickest shifting gearbox in the world.
What transmission do they have on that?
I think it's a Tremec. I'm not sure which one. But just the linkage, it just kind of felt a little sloppy.
They all have a little weirdness when it comes to off-road.
Yeah, that's true. And I wouldn't expect something to shift like a Miata or a BRZ, in an SUV like that.
Yeah.
But I think with this one, with the Raptor, it's not going to matter anyway. That's just not even going to be an option with that 3-liter V6. And it does have paddle shifters on it though. And it's got all the other good stuff that you'll find in a Bronco for off-roading. Like you get the surround view cameras that you can keep those on up to, like, I think it's 20 miles an hour when you're in one of the off-road modes. And they added a couple of additional modes to that. I can't remember off the top of my head what they are. For higher speed driving. So, this thing, the Raptor, like the F-150 Raptor, is more, in some ways, is more akin to like a Gladiator Mojave. For higher speed desert running. Whereas if all you're ever going to do is rock crawling, you probably actually want to go with one of the standard Broncos with like the Sasquatch package.
Probably a two-door as well. You want that shorter.
Yeah, and I think the crawl ratio with the Raptor is only 67 to 1, only 67 to 1 versus 95 to 1 with the manual transmission, and I think 80 something to 1 with the 10-speed and the Sasquatch. But like I say, you do get the standard 37-inch wheel and tire, choice of a couple of different beadlock capable 17-inch wheels. So it's a pretty cool looking vehicle. Did you look through all the photos? Did you see the photo they had in there of a regular Bronco parked, the head-on shot of the regular Bronco next to the Raptor? How much wider and taller it is?
Oh, like the profile one, their head-on, like it just looks like such. It makes the regular Bronco look kind of like,
like a sport.
Yeah, you're like, oh, whatever. It does. It makes it look like a sport.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, are they? That was my first reaction. I was like, wait, are they showing off this versus the sport? Like, why are they? I'm like, oh, wait, no, that's just the regular Bronco. This thing is what is it again? Go wild, built wild, extreme built wild.
Yeah.
It's so extreme built wild that it makes the regular Bronco look like a Bronco sport.
So orders, they're going to start taking orders in March, start deliveries early summer is the plan. And anybody who's on the Bronco reservation list will get first chance to convert their orders to a Raptor. They haven't said what the price is going to be. I'm guessing it's probably going to be somewhere in the mid 60s or more at least to start, maybe 70. And
you, so if you, I'm going to say if you have the regular Bronco on order, make sure that whatever deal you have with the dealership it's coming through doesn't have where they can mark it up. I was at a dealership this last week, just sort of wandering around. I had to take the Kona in to get the wireless charger fixed. They had to order a part. And I was just walking around looking at markups. Like there was a GR86 down the street for $14,000 markup. And I went to the Ford dealership and they're like, yeah, the Bronco, the markup is $20,000. $20,000.
just walk away.
Just
walk away.
So if you get the Bronco Raptor and you're like, yeah, but it turns out your dealership like can do whatever they want because you haven't like set up a deal where you're only paying MSRP. Whew, that's gonna be a sad day when they come back to you with a $30,000 markup.
Yeah, make sure you get that in your sales contract when you do the order. That this is the price you're going to pay. No additional markups. Yeah, somebody in the Wheel Bearings Cast Twitter replied to the call out for questions yesterday they posted a photo of a sticker on a Mach-E with a $15,000 markup. So, yeah, it's don't do it. Dealers do this stuff because customers let them get away with it. Because they pay it and they buy it. Just don't buy it. Ford will keep building Broncos as long as customers are buying them. You don't have to be the first on your block.
Yeah,
you can wait. Wait until the madness dies down. So yeah, that's going to be this summer. So yeah, sticker is probably going to be somewhere in the 65 to 70,000 range, I would guess, because the Wrangler 392 with the Hemi V8, those things are 75. So This wouldn't be surprised if it went that high.
I still haven't seen a Wrangler 392 in the real world yet.
No, I haven't either.
I'm sure someone's bought them, just probably not around here. There's a lot of Wranglers around my hood too.
Well, they're selling a lot of the plug-in hybrids, the 4xe.
4xe, yeah.
I was just looking at some numbers yesterday, and the take rate for the 4xe, the market share for the 4xe, from July through December when they started selling them, was something like a quarter. It was almost a quarter of all the Wranglers sold in the second half of 2021 were 4xe.
Wow.
So they're doing really well with that one.
Well, that should be a sign to Ford that they need to get the Bronco plug-in hybrid out.
Yeah, and I suspect that we'll probably see that within the next 12 months as a Bronco plug-in hybrid. By that time, we should also have another new product from Ford. They made an announcement this week of a joint venture with ADT, the wonderful security folks that charge you an arm and a leg to monitor the security of your home. The best way to get ADT to get the type of security you get from ADT is just to go on eBay and buy the stickers and signs and put them on your windows and put one on your front door. Or when you buy a house that's got the ADT security in there, just leave the sign there and just don't sign up for the service, the monitoring service.
It's the same thing. Or get a dog. I'll get a dog with a really loud bark. Yeah, sure, he interrupts the podcast, but he also terrifies anyone who comes near our house.
That's right. Exactly. Anyway, Ford and ADT are teaming up to create a joint venture called Canopy that they're targeting it, especially at their commercial customers, but also at anybody else that will utilize the cameras that are on all the vehicles they build now, as well as the connectivity they have to monitor. You can monitor the bed of your truck. It'll have AI software in there that's looking for anybody that's not you taking stuff out of the bed of your truck or your SUV or your van, and can automatically call ADT and alert them. And it'll also alert you through a smartphone app, so you can check. You get an alert on your phone. You can see what somebody's doing, and then you can talk back to them, and it'll have a speaker on there, so you can say, "Hey, get away from my truck," and hopefully scare them off, or get your dog to bark into your phone.
There you go. Get that. Oh God. No one's afraid of you saying "hey." That's all. Hey, that's the least terrifying thing you can yell at someone. Hey.
Yeah. What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Leave those tools alone. So it's going to launch in 2023. They're going to have an aftermarket product. Strangely enough, they're going to have an aftermarket product first that you can install in existing vehicles, and won't be limited to just Ford vehicles. It'll be available for all kinds of vehicles, and then they'll also have it as a factory option on new Ford vehicles as well. No word on pricing, but if you keep valuable stuff in your truck, your tools or parts or whatever it is, this might be something that you're interested in.
Yeah, I mean it comes down to the idea that if thieves are going to go to the least protected thing. If your door is locked and your neighbor's door is not locked, they're going to go to your neighbor's house. If your house has an ADT sign and the neighbor's house does not have an ADT sign, etc., etc. If your house has a big, loud dog and your neighbor's house does not, that's what they're going to go. So it's, just layers of security. You should still, totally lock down your tools if you have to keep them in your vehicle with a nice toolbox, and also just don't leave things in the back of your truck. But but
I mean, if you're at a job site, like if you're a carpenter or somebody, or an electrician, and you're at a site, you've got stuff, you've got it open, and somebody happens to be wandering by, because you're not going to have everything locked up while you're working.
Yeah.
So it's kind of for that sort of trying to stop the opportunistic thieves.
Exactly.
And I'm sure that we're probably going to see more of these kinds of deals with other automakers as well, doing this sort of thing, because all the new vehicles are got all kinds of cameras all over the place, surround view cameras. They've all got connectivity built in. So this is the kind of thing where I can actually see automakers starting to generate some revenue from connected services is for this type of application. I think this is something that at least some customers will be willing to pay for.
Yeah, it's a subscription. More and more things are coming subscription-wise to your car, so get ready. Some might be good, and most of them will be ridiculous and not worth your money or your time.
Yep. Shifting to V12 engines, got some news. BMW announced
Shifting away,
yes. BMW announced this week that later this spring they will be building their last ever production vehicles with V12 engines, and they're going to have a limited run of 12 M760i final V12 editions. I suspect by now they're probably all sold. And they're customers will be able to select from anything in the BMW individual catalogs. They can get whatever color combinations they want for interior and exterior and whatever other options. But it's the end of the line for the BMW V12. I guess they really don't need it anymore. I mean, the current one, 6.5 liters, twin turbocharged, 601 horsepower, I think, which is the same as the twin turbo V8 in the M5.
Yeah, it's the V12s were cool when they came out, and they were you get all this extra displacement that you couldn't get from the other vehicles. But now you're just like, oh, all right, well, really?
I mean, the lovely thing about a V12 is it's so smooth, with all those pistons, there's no vibration, so you just get it. It's almost like like the kind of output you get from an electric motor, but just consuming a lot more fuel along the way.
So many tiny explosions.
Yeah.
Like how many times? Double that. How many tiny explosions you want? No, double that. That's we're gonna. But it's gonna be like, it's gonna be like a kitten purring. It's gonna be a powerful kitten purring, but also a very hungry kitten. I guess maybe not a kitten. Lion, tiger. Let's say tiger. There we go.
Yeah.
That's a better analogy.
Yeah, the first BMW V12 I ever drove was the 850i back in 1990, when I was working at the GM Proving Grounds, and they had one in the comparison fleet, and so I got to take one home for a night, and that thing was sweet. But back then, it was only 295 horsepower, which by current standards, I mean, you get 2-liter 4-cylinders that are putting out more power than that now.
Yeah. Again, it was cool at the time, and now you're just like, I mean, how much gas you have to? I mean, what's the tank size for this thing, and then how long will it go? 150 miles?
Yeah.
Like it's 20 gallon, it's 25 gallon tank.
Yeah, big tank.
Big tank. You'll get about 200 miles out of it before you're out. But it's going to be 200 amazing miles.
Yeah, absolutely. Another company that uses big V12 engines is Lamborghini, and they are also planning to not necessarily shift away from the V12s entirely, but apparently this year, 2022, will be the last year in which they build only internal combustion engines. Starting in 23, they're going to start adopting electrification. I think you had a chance to talk with BMW CEO, didn't you, Robbie?
Yeah. No, it was a good talk. I think Lamborghini has I think when you're looking at the automakers and you look at electrification, everyone else you're like, okay, I can see where this works. I can see where this works. I can see where this works. Lamborghini is an automaker built on emotion. more so than almost any other automaker. I mean, you look at a Lamborghini and you're like, oh, either you love it or you're repelled by it. But it's a very emotional brand. You have these giant engines, you have these very, out there designed vehicles, and then you have that exhaust note, and just the blah 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 blah. So you have all these things that are coming together to create that Lamborghini experience. And initially they're going to have the plug-in hybrids, which they need those vehicles to drive. Or if you're going to buy a Lamborghini and you still want to drive around a city, you're going to have a plug-in hybrid, because you're going to need to, especially in Europe, you're going to need some sort of electrification powertrain in order to get around, or you're going to get taxed up the wazoo, or you just have to go.
Yeah, in some places you just won't even be able to drive. You won't
be able to drive it.
Yeah.
And so you have that, but then they also have their electric car that's coming in the future at some point, and it'll be interesting to see how they navigate what's going on, because they can still, I don't think people realize the amount of technology that goes into a Lamborghini. It's actually quite a lot. It's actually pretty impressive. As a brand, they're actually pretty forward thinking when it comes to tech. It's not just big dumb engines and outlandish vehicles. That there's a lot of thought goes into these supercars. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens on that end. I think the hybrid, you're still going to get the nice loud. You're going to get all the things that you're used to from Lamborghini, and then the transformation electrification, that's going to be interesting. That's going to be something that they're still figuring out.
Yeah, I think most likely. I think earlier this or last year they hinted at a new V12 hybrid model, a limited edition model derived from the Aventador, which is their current V12 model. So I think that'll probably be one of the first ones that comes out next year. And then the other thing that we'll probably see, the first plug-in hybrid, will probably be the Urus, because that shares its basic architecture with the Porsche Taycan and the Audi Q7. And those are both available with plug-in hybrid variants already. So it'd be pretty straightforward to put that same system into the Urus. And so, and that will probably end up being, I think the Urus is probably already the best-selling Lamborghini.
Oh yeah, it is printing money for them. When I remember on the Drive program, I just pulled someone aside. I'm all, you guys are going to sell so many of these, and they're like, we hope so. I'm like, no, you're going to sell a lot of these, because you're just like, oh, it's all the sort of emotion that you want. I wanted a Lamborghini since I was a kid, but now that I have the money, I have a family, and I have I need something a little bit utilitarian. Besides, a supercar that it's difficult to get in and out of, because I'm a little bit older, so they have this. And so for people who still want that Lamborghini brand, that Lamborghini sound, that Lamborghini feeling, but also got things to do,
yeah.
there's the Urus.
Yeah, so the Lamborghini, Ferrari's going hybrid as well with the 296. It's the end of the road, or nearing the end of the road for the pure internal combustion engine. Even cars that still burn fuel are getting some degrees of electrification coming to them.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to one of the designers. I think it was the head designer of Bugatti at Pebble, and we were talking about electrification a little bit. And he was saying, he's like, we make a couple hundred cars a year. Our carbon footprint is nothing. It's nothing compared to...
And most of them don't get driven very much.
Yeah, he's like, our cars get, what, maybe 300 miles of driving every year. These are very much people who are investing in... It's like art. They're investing in a piece of art that they'll drive around a little while. They'll show off. It'll be like, like the gallery showing will be them driving it to whatever event they want to go to. And then in a couple of years, they sell it for more money. Lamborghini, Ferraris, they get driven a lot more. They're not as expensive, but I think there's I think the carbon footprint of all of Lamborghini's cars is nothing compared to some of the larger automakers out there. I mean, their carbon footprint of Lamborghini is probably less than Tesla when you think about manufacturing.
Yeah.
when you put everything together, all when you think of all at the end of the day, it's Tesla as a manufacturer and an automaker probably has a much larger footprint than Lamborghini or Ferrari. Maybe both of them put together.
Yeah, I mean, both of those brands, sell somewhere around 8,000 vehicles a year, and most of them probably don't accumulate at most a few thousand miles a year. So when you even if they're getting 10 or 12 miles per gallon, the total impact they have is trivial compared to vehicles like an F-150 that sells 900,000 units a year, and gets 16 or 18 or 20 miles per gallon.
The machine that tightens the bolts, the lug nuts on the F-150 probably has a larger carbon footprint than all of Lamborghini.
You're probably right. All right. Before we get into the Q&A, I have the last of the interviews I did while I was at the LA Auto Show back in November. It's with Mike Darrow, the CEO of TrueCar, and we talked about the new platform that TrueCar has developed for selling vehicles online. Over the last couple of years, a lot of automakers have developed online selling platforms for their dealers. Not every dealer necessarily wants to use those, or in some cases, dealers might have multiple brands that they're selling, and they want to have a platform that they can use across all of those brands. So TrueCar, and also for the used cars as well. So TrueCar has developed their own online selling platform that allows consumers to go in. And in the past, with TrueCar, you could go in and shop, and do comparisons of cars and shop around and see what was available. Now you can actually go in and see what's in inventory at any given dealer and do the full transaction, including financing and insurance and everything, right through that platform, and then even arrange for delivery, either going to a dealer to pick it up or having it delivered to you, depending on where you are. I'll drop that in here, and then after that, we'll have the Q&A. And that's Mike Darrow, the CEO of TrueCar. Let's dive into TrueCar and what you guys are doing now.
Yeah, so we've made a bit of a product pivot, and recently have started putting some things in the marketplace that we've actually been working on for about 2.5 or 3 years, where we're allowing the consumer to take the purchase process beyond just shopping online.
Because that's what TrueCar mostly was up until now.
Yeah,
right?
With shopping site. And what we would do is we'd show you dealer inventory so you could see pricing. And then if you found a vehicle you were interested in, we'd make a connection for you with the dealer, and you could continue the process there. What we've done now is started to build out the technology that will allow a consumer to go from what we say discovery to driveway, which is from shopping through finding a car they want with the price they're looking for, actually calculating a payment, a real payment that would be similar to what you'd do in a showroom. About 3 years ago, we invested in a company called Dealer Science. It was developed by a third-generation Honda dealer, and it's a legitimate desking tool. And we built that into our software. So if you find the vehicle you're looking for, you get the price, then we put you into the desking tool. You can tell us whether you're a lease or a loan type customer. You can calculate your payments.
It's sort of a digital equivalent of going into the F&I office.
Exactly. Yeah. Or it's even pre-F&I. It's kind of what the salesman would do.
Okay.
But how much can you afford kind of thing. So we're replacing those showroom activities. We made an investment in another company called AccuTrade. And they allow us to put a guaranteed cash value on your trade-in. So if you're shopping on our site and you're getting ready to buy that new Jaguar and you want to trade your Mazda in, you put your plate in, tell us a little bit about the car, and we can give you a guaranteed cash offer, so that when you go to the dealership, you don't have to worry about what value they're going to put on my car. Or, am I going to? Because a lot of that happened at the dealership was, did that particular dealer want that piece of inventory, right? And we can look at cars and say, here's the demand for that car. We can put a value on it that we know other dealers will take for it. So it's enabled us to create a real cash value for the car. So you found your car, you got your price, calculated your payment, know the value of your trade. Then we did a partnership with a company called AutoFi, and they're a lending as a solution, fintech kind of company, and it allows the consumer to connect directly with the lending sources. So you fill out a credit app on our site, We'll send it out to a half a dozen different banks. They'll send the returns back to you, which is the F&I office type stuff you'd normally do in a dealership. And then you can select from what you've seen returned to you and actually lock in the financing. Then we do insurance products, extended warranties and tire and wheel protection, whatever, gap insurance, whatever it is you may be looking for, similar to what you'd see in a dealership. And then you're the paperwork, right? So we have a deal, an electronic deal sheet that we print out. The consumer can sign that. The dealer signs it. And all of this is done with dealer inventory and dealer numbers, right? Mm-hmm. So we're just the technology that's kind of enabling the demand side of the business to connect with the supply side. And it allows us to be flexible and kind of adaptive, nimble, because it's an asset-light kind of a deal. Carvana, for example, is a vertically integrated dealership.
Right, because they have to buy the cars and store them.
Recon the car and move it, all of that stuff. We're working out of the local dealer inventory, for these situations. So we get you through the paperwork, and then you tell us, do you want to go to the dealership and pick the car up? About 50% of people tend to indicate they do. They still want to meet the service manager. If it's a new car, they want to get their warranty work or, service done. And the other ones say, hey, ship the car to me. And we're doing testing right now with a national shipping company called Assertus. And, we're in pilot, and we'll see how that comes out. But we plan to have a national network to eventually ship cars for consumers all across the U.S.
So how are the dealers responding to this?
We're getting a much better response than we would have 2 years ago. So COVID had a huge impact on our industry, right? So it accelerated the dealers' understanding of having to find new ways to do retail. And what they're feeling is, I think, which everybody in our industry is that you can buy products outside of automotive digitally on almost everything, right? You can buy major appliances, you can buy shoes, you can buy books, you can buy boats, you can buy everything. But you come to automotive, and it's still very non-sophisticated in that way. So that's our goal. We want to bring a real two-sided marketplace to automotive where buyers and sellers can come together. Amazon's the easy compare, but that's too. You think of a company like Airbnb. I don't know if you've ever used Airbnb. They got these local homeowners who they bring out, and then you got people who want to travel. They make the connections, and they're just the technology in between that.
So a lot of OEMs over the last year and a half, have been rolling out various digital platforms to try to, enable sales online. Right. And, I think, for a lot of their franchise dealer partners, there's some concern, that the OEMs are trying to disintermediate them.
Right.
Are you finding that there may be more welcoming to your solution as opposed to the OEM solution because of they maybe maintain a little more control over the process or have more involvement in it?
I think retailers and their OEM partners are rebuilding their relationships right now. Some of them, like Nissan, has launched Nissan from home. The Nissan dealers we talk to, some of them like it. So I think what you'll see is Farley announced this morning that they want to get big into build to order. And so that's another step that the OEMs can take to build the car. What we're hearing from Ford is they're still going to deliver it through the dealer, so you'd order it. So
right,
we're seeing
they're just trying to reduce the amount of inventory that dealers have to carry.
That's right.
There's advantages and disadvantages. For the dealers, they don't have the floor plan costs. If they've got less inventory, there's less risk in that respect. On the other hand, there's less opportunity, for somebody that walks in and they want to drive off with a car today instead of having to wait 6 weeks.
Well, pre-COVID, I think the industry ran at around 90 days supply. Ford's claiming to be at 20 now. I think their ideal target is 60. So
it's traditionally been the target is around 60 days.
So I think if they manage the inventory back to about 60 days, there's a pretty steady flow of immediate demand in our country that other markets, like in Europe, I guess everybody orders everything. Dealers don't. Actually stock cars.
It's very different.
There's almost 4 million cars a year in the U.S. that are total loss. So those people come to the market. They're not going to order.
Right. They need something now.
They got 9 days to do something, settle a claim. Now, many of them are used car buyers. They're replacing with a used car, but there's some immediate need in our industry that brings immediate buyers to the market. And I think the OEMs will find the sweet spot as to where that should be. 60 days is probably a good number if you can keep it around there.
I think they would actually prefer to get it probably closer to 30.
If they can do
forward.
it. If they can do it. The problem is when you place an order, and I've heard this, and you probably have too, a lot of people have gone on that Bronco order list, right?
Yep.
What happens is after a couple of months, it sounded like a good idea, but then they get bored and they go, the heck with it. I'm canceling. I'm going to go buy something else. So what I would wonder is how long will someone wait, on a build to order? And if some competing brand has the car sitting there that they want?
Well, if it's Tesla, apparently it's multiple years.
Tesla and the Bronco, right?
Yeah. I guess
They're taking Bronco orders for next summer, I'm hearing. So
yeah.
And hey,
well, with Mach-E, they open the order book, a year before the first, more than a year before the first deliveries. And I know a friend of mine, he ordered his on day one, in November of 2019, and got it in February of this year. Right. So it was 14, 15 months.
Yeah, a lot. We were down talking to the Nissan folks. They introduced their Aria today. They opened up the order bank for that today. They're starting to see some things come in. So
that's going to be 10 months before those cars arrive.
That's right.
At least minimum.
Right. What we tend to see from consumers, unless they're very brand loyal and they get a BMW every 3 years or a Nissan, they want to shop across brands. And no matter what kind of tools the dealers and the OEMs introduce, it's still going to be very brand-centric. So we think one of the values we bring is we allow a consumer. We've got about 450,000 new cars on our site. We've got about 700,000 used cars. So you can look at the Nissan next to the Toyota, next to the Honda. You can look at the BMW, the Audi, and the Mercedes all together, rather than having to go to Mercedes and go to BMW. So we think there's some convenience in building out that marketplace.
Doing your comparisons in one place.
That's right.
Is your platform intended to go for both new and used products?
New and used.
Okay, so that's probably an advantage you might have over most of the OEM solutions.
That's right.
As well as the Carvanas and the
that are all used.
Right. Because you've got that choice, that option for consumers.
Yeah.
How from a business perspective, how does it work? Does TrueCar get a cut of every transaction, or is that basically it?
Our relationship with our retail partners is transaction-based. Right now, they pay us $2.99 for every new car we help them sell, and $3.99 for a used.
Okay.
So, unlike some of our competitors who are more like marketing platforms, and they sell advertising space and subscriptions and buttons and bells, and we don't have any ads on our site. Our site's built to take someone who's in the shopping process and move them to the purchase in an orderly fashion. And till recently, we moved them to the purchase and then we handed them to the dealer. Now we're going to create an environment where they can take those, half a dozen final steps on our site, still be dealing with a dealer, still buying a dealer's piece of inventory, but actually being able to do the whole thing without leaving the TrueCar environment.
And that's called TrueCar Plus.
TrueCar Plus. That's the name.
And it's all plus 9, not the word.
That's right.
Branding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that uppercase or lowercase?
Read the face value.
I was with Toyota on Sunday and Monday for their Evolution event. They were doing in Encinitas, and they showed us the BZ4X. And aside from being just a ridiculous name, they've also got this mixed lowercase b, uppercase z, 4, uppercase x, and the way they had it on all the materials, the lowercase b was superscripted. It's like, you aren't seriously expecting us to write it like that, are you?
It was funny. We were standing. I don't remember, Beth, if I was with you or Noreen, but we were standing looking at that vehicle outside of the Toyota display, and one of their PR folks was talking to someone from the media. And I guess the B stands for
Beyond Zero.
Yeah. I had no idea what,
We thought it was just random assembling of letters.
It's Beyond Zero. The 4 is an indicator of, where the vehicle stands in the lineup from a size perspective.
Right.
So the higher the number, the bigger the vehicle, lower number, smaller vehicle. And then the X is crossover. So presumably when there's an electric sedan, it'll be an S or something else.
It's like a math problem.
Yeah. It is like an equation. You're right. It's a little equation.
And of course, BZ4X just rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah, what are you driving?
I will recommend just to spite that naming convention. I will recommend to people to just go to a Subaru dealer and buy a Solterra. It's the same car, and it has a better name.
That's right. They're sharing a platform with them on that.
Yeah, they co-developed it. Subaru did a lot of the engineering work on it, and it's built on the same assembly line. And you look at them, aside from some slight differences in the front fascia, they're identical. If you take the badges off, 99.9% of people won't tell them apart. When did TrueCar Plus roll out?
We're in testing in a market in Florida right now. Okay. And then the plan is through Q1 of 2022, we'll try to start rolling it out in the state of Florida. A lot of big markets there, as you know, and we picked Florida because there's limited impact of seasonality down there. You get pretty good weather most of the time. So we'll be pretty well covered through Florida at the end of Q1, and then we'll start looking at other markets to roll out. There's some dealer participation elements in it that we got to spend some time with the dealers in the market to get them on board. So there's some SLAs we ask them to live up to. They can't change the deal, can't change the price, can't change any of the parameters of the deal. They got to have a 7-day return policy. We're bringing some of the elements that we've learned from some of the, folks who have really raised the bar on consumer experience. CarMax is one. Some of them are out there that have done it, and so that's going to cause us to do it market by market versus a national thing, because we want to make sure that the dealers live up to the expectations on what we're putting out there. So
consumer experience is key.
Yeah, so dealers, as they get inventory, they'll enter in that vehicle into the system. Yep. That price is fixed, and when a shopper goes through, selects a car, that's the price they pay, and there's no negotiating about it.
Done deal. Yep.
Okay.
And it's interesting. We did some research because at one time, TrueCar's brand was a lot about pricing. How do I go to TrueCar and understand pricing? Consumers tell us what they're looking for around pricing is more fairness than the lowest price. Now, there are some folks who will spend 3 weekends arguing over $100, but most folks don't have time for that.
I've never done that. No, I haven't, because anytime, if it comes down to that, I just walk away.
Yeah. It's just frustrating.
Absolutely.
So people are saying, hey, if you show me a price and it's got everything in it, I don't want to get to the end and find out there's 3 things you're going to add to that. So that's another part of the SLA with the dealers is price has to be the complete price. And if you can show me data that says that's a fair price compared to what other folks are paying, which we do now, that's good, and they're ready to go. And if the experience is better, they're more than happy with that. So, the internet got the blame for forcing dealer margins down at one time. I think now it's the tide's starting to swing on that and say, we may be able to improve the relationship between the dealer and the consumer around pricing because the proposition's better.
Yeah, I mean, if it's less frustrating for consumers, if you don't have that hassle, people will probably be willing to pay a little bit more just to be able to get the deal over with.
That's right.
Yeah.
Perfect evidence for me is just look at my DoorDash bill. Yeah. Right? I mean, I pay for the convenience of having somebody bring that bag to my house. And, I mean, it's great.
One other thing with, suppose a consumer from, outside of the region where that dealer is shopping for something that may not be available in their area. They can look around, in some other zip code or, a couple 100 miles away. Do you have anything in the platform to arrange, for example, for shipping?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to get involved in the shipping process. We're in a test right now to do that and ship nationally. What we're figuring out now is, particularly on new cars, there's some tax regulations about buying cars out of state versus in state, and we got to make sure our product addresses that. So, if you're here in Southern California and you find a car in Arizona, we got to make sure all the tax things are taken care of.
But if you want to buy something from the Bay Area, for example, they can put it on a truck.
That's very simple. Yeah.
What about? What was I going to ask you? That slipped right out of my mind. For the used cars, for the trade-ins, is the trade-in, those are going to the dealer, and you're not. Aside from facilitating the transaction, you're not buying those cars. The dealer is buying those cars, and then they take care of any refurbishment and putting it back in inventory.
We call it a backstop value, which is a guaranteed value. If the dealer gets the car and says, hey, I don't want it, we will take it, but what we do is we just immediately move it to another dealer who wants it.
Yeah.
Where we see that happen is if it's an off-brand kind of thing that somebody tried to trade a very expensive Porsche in at a Chevy store maybe, and the Chevy guy's going, I don't care, I don't know what to do with this car, so we'll move it. But it's less than 0.5% of the vehicles we put a number on do we actually get back. Okay. Very, very small number. Okay. Used car market is very hot right now. Dealers want every used car they can get, so we see very seldomly do we see an exchange or someone saying, hey, I don't want this car, come get it.
All right. And so consumers would go to the TrueCar.com and find that interface then?
Yep. Yeah. Okay. And like I said, we're testing it by market, so you'd have to be in the zip code of one of the markets we're testing in. But yeah, we put them right into the experience and boom.
All right. There. Excellent. Sounds like something that another solution that I think consumers will be interested to try out. Yeah. To make that car shopping experience a little less painful, a little less friction.
And the beauty of it is we're bringing the dealers with us, so that hopefully we can change that dynamic from them being the bad guy to now they're the good guys. They can do the things they're good at, right? They can do service, they can do follow-up, they can do the things that gets the consumer beyond that price gnashing and all of that things that go on a purchase. So.
Great. All right. Well, thank you.
Hey, great meetings. Appreciate it. Good talking to you.
Alrighty. And now we've got a bunch of listener questions that came in over the last couple of days. First one from Dan Vesma, at Dan Vesma on Twitter, asks, through some sort of mix-up, you have to pick one British car to use as your daily driver. $30,000 budget, used or new. Which car, what color?
Oh, man. That's a tough question.
Especially given that there's not a whole lot of British cars left.
Yeah, I saw that, and like the entire time you were telling everybody to listen, talking about TrueCar, I was like, oh my god, what do I got? Who's making cars still that I can afford?
I think at this point, for a $30,000 budget, it's going to have to be something used. Yes. You're not going to get anything new. It's basically Jaguar and Land Rover and Rolls-Royce and Bentley is the British car industry now.
You can cheat and say Mini, but it's not really. That's a British. Well, it's a British car, but it's a German-owned British car. So does that count?
Yeah, I would say so.
All right, so
as long as it's a hardtop. It can't be like the Countryman or the. It can't be the Countryman because those are built in Austria.
Okay,
no, they're built in the Netherlands now. Mini would count. That's British.
I'm going to say the Mini then. Yeah, I think that's. I mean, I would like it to be the Defender, but it starts at like 50,000. So the Mini, the hardtop Mini, where's the Mini SE built? I'm sure it's probably built in the same.
Yeah, all the small Minis are built in Oxford. I'm
going to say the Mini SE, just because. And this is anecdotal evidence, but everyone I know who's owned a Mini has had some sort of transmission problem. And when you have an electric Mini, you don't have that problem.
Well, I don't know if you follow Lisa Laporte on Twitter.
I do.
Her Mini SE is stuck in the garage right now. Apparently, it's got some kind of fault; it won't run. And they sent out 2 different tow trucks yesterday to try and get it out of the garage. They couldn't. The tow truck drivers could not figure out how to get it out of the garage.
Because it's locked.
Yeah, just jack it up and put some wheel dollies under it.
Yeah. Oh man.
I don't know what the problem is. Might be transmission. Who knows? But it won't move right now.
Oh no. I'm just gonna still say the Mini SE. That's my under 30,000 because it's like 29,900 something. So that's my $30,000 British car. Definitely not I've driven Vauxhalls before and they're fine, I guess.
I am going to say technically the car that we have in our garage is a British car. Our 2017 Honda Civic hatchback was built in the UK at Honda's UK plant. And so technically it's British. It was built there with British labor, British parts, or at least some British parts, and then imported to the U.S. So I'm going to go with the previous generation Honda Civic hatchback. The new Civic hatchback, the 2022 models that both Nicole and I drove in recent weeks, those are actually built here in Ohio or in Indiana. But the previous generation were built in the UK. So I'm going to go with the Honda Civic hatchback.
I like how we're essentially just this is not good for the British automotive world, because we're just like kind of like, whoa, technicalities. We're using technicalities. I will say that I can get the Cooper SE hardtop in British Racing Green for no extra money.
Oh,
$29,900. Boom.
Great. Do it. Perfect.
The electric Mini SE 116. I got to 120. I don't know how I was able to get 120 miles of range, like driving like I do. But yeah.
Driving downhill.
No, it's a great little car. I really had a lot of fun driving that thing around. I was sad when it left. That doesn't happen a lot. Like a lot of cars, I have them. Some of them I get a little sad when they leave, but most of them are just like, well, that was a thing that happened.
Yeah,
that was fine. I don't know if I'm cynical, but that's just the nature of the job.
Well, one of the strange things about our Civic, and actually I would have picked the Civic Type R, but I don't think you could. I doubt you could even get a used one for under $30,000 right now. But the engine in our Civic, the 1.5 liter turbo, was actually built in Ohio. It was manufactured in Anna, Ohio, shipped to the UK, installed in a Civic Civic hatchback in the UK, and then the car was shipped back here.
That's a well-traveled engine.
That engine had a lot of miles on it before it ever turned over. All right, next one from Wes. With future implementation of solid-state batteries and the efficiency gains from optimized hardware, software integration, you think we'll see a return to the vehicles being designed more for style and elegance, like in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, putting drag coefficients in the back seat?
I think so. I think this is a really good point I hadn't really actually thought about, is that at some point the EVs, especially if solid state or lithium ion just gets quick enough where, and again, I think it's now I feel like it's less about range anxiety, it's about charging anxiety, like, oh, it's going to take 20, 30 minutes to do this. And when you can charge up an EV in 5-10 minutes, and it's getting, the battery technology has gotten super efficient, where you don't need a 0.2 drag coefficient. I think we're going to probably see a little bit more adjustment in design styles, where the EQS I think is a great car, but I think it also kind of does not. It sort of looks like a Mercedes, but mostly it's designed to do really well, to be very efficient, exterior wise. So I think that's we're probably going to see more S-classy EQSs in the future as everything gets a bit more efficient. And
you get the Lucid Air.
Yeah, no, the Lucid Air is
slick,
beautiful.
But it's got a distinct look to it.
Yeah, I think we're gonna. I mean, we'll definitely see more big weird trucks. I can tell you that. More Bollinger type vehicles that would have had zero drag coefficient. Yeah, the drag coefficient would have been like 3.8 or something.
Yeah, you got the Hummer EV, and the F-150 is the F-150 Lightning's not exactly slick, and the Cybertruck. So yeah, I mean, we'll definitely see more different takes on design. I mean, design is an ever evolving thing. I don't know that we'll necessarily go back to something like the 30s, 40s, or 50s. Certainly, you're definitely not going to have those pointed those torpedo style lights and things like that, because those tend to impale pedestrians.
Oh yeah, I was like, why not? I'm like, oh yeah, the same reason you can't have, like, we have the Jaguar logo, the jumping
cat
on our Jaguar, and you can't sell those in Europe anymore because, well, they stab people.
Yeah.
Anyone gets hit with their car, they immediately get impaled.
All right. Next up, from Nth Degree Burns on Twitter. He's actually got 3 questions. So start off with, are any manufacturers offering OEM upgrades for their charging clusters to go from USB-A to USB-C? Are there any aftermarket companies making drop-in replacements for charging clusters? Example, the center console, 2 USBs plus 1 aux port in my Ram 1500, for example. Well, I'm going to assume, based on your description there, that your Ram 1500 is a pre-2018 model, because the ones after 2018 all have multiple USB-Cs and As, as do all the Stellantis vehicles now. I doubt you're going to see any sort of drop-in replacements, because every vehicle's got a different configuration of where the ports are, and it's not like, in the past with audio head units where you had a standardized format. That's never been standardized. The USB ports have never been standardized, so a drop-in replacement. But your best bet is just to get like a little adapter that goes into your 12-volt socket, your lighter socket, with a couple of USB-Cs, and I'll put a link in the show notes to Monoprice. They've got a 12-volt 12-volt adapter with 2 USB-Cs that does, I think, 48 watts. Has 48 watt output, or 45 watts. So this will do fairly fast charging on any modern phones or devices with USB-C. And with 45 watts, you can even charge low-end MacBooks and low-end laptops at a semi-reasonable speed. And that's only $16.99. So that's your best bet, is to just get something like that.
If you want to go really crazy, you can rewire the ports, and if it's its own panel, if it's not part of a larger panel, like where the actual ports are, you could 3D print. You could measure it out. You could bust out the 3D printer, and you could 3D print a replacement port that'll accept the USB-C instead of USB-A. That's if you're a nerd, you do go for it, see what happens.
Yeah,
it should be fine though, and it's just I mean,
I doubt. Yeah, like I said, I don't think you're going to see aftermarket solutions like that, just because they're so non-standardized. But but definitely you can do it yourself. Do it yourself solutions, and also just stuff that you plug into the 12-volt outlet.
You could also, you wouldn't even have to rewire it. You could probably just get like a little cable that goes from USB-A to USB-C that has let's see. Yeah, you could go to USB-A to USB-C that has the female receptacle, and then 3D print that thing and put it in there. That way you're not like messing with things. But you're still going to have USB-A. I mean, if you're going to do that, yeah, well, that's the thing. If you're going to do that, you probably want to go ahead and rewire it so you get the power delivery, get the higher wattage that you can't get over USB-A. USB-A is limited to 5 or 10 watts. You charge it, you try to plug in your laptop, and it takes 3. It's just barely.
Yeah. Okay. The next question from Nth Degree Burns is regarding the Jeep Grand Cherokee L. Did you get information about the 2-row version? Any chance of a discount for deleting the third row, I'm assuming? Would the resulting deletion leave a relatively flat load floor like the custom no third row on the Chevy Tahoe LS? There is a 2-row Grand Cherokee. There's not going to be a 2-row Grand Cherokee L. There's a standard 2-row Grand Cherokee, which is shorter. So you get less cargo space, less volume inside, but just you're not. I don't think there's ever going to be a delete option for the third row on the Grand Cherokee L. I don't know. Have you heard anything different?
No, and you wouldn't save any money. It's like I used to be I was a vegetarian for 17 years. And taking the meat off of the meal didn't save me any money. Like, this is the price. This is what you're paying. And even especially for this, the deletion would be more money because they'd have to, because they're built a certain way. This is how we build this widget. This is how we build this widget. Hey, can you take this one notch off this widget? You're like, what? Well, that's going to take extra work because this is how we build the widget. This is how we build the widget. So yeah, you could you could probably get it custom. You could buy it with the third row, have it removed, have someone take it out, and then
or just fold them down and leave them there. And
I feel like just folding it down would be fine.
If you ever have an emergency and need to carry 6th or 7th passengers, so you've got them there, you can just pop them up.
What's nice also is if you have that third row, like in that, say in that Outlander, where you don't have it keeps things from rolling around. There you go.
That's true. Yeah.
You can. That's what the third row is for in the Outlander.
Partition there.
Yeah, it's a partition. It's the Outlander third row isn't so much for sitting; it's for partitioning.
Constrain your dog. Keep them in a constrained area.
You stay here, dog.
All right, and then regarding Roberto's advice about leasing an EV, or does Roberto's advice about leasing an EV change with a plug-in hybrid? He's recommended leasing EVs since battery and charging tech is changing so much right now. Is that as much of an issue if you're still mixing the battery and an ICE?
You know what? I think you could just buy a PHEV. I mean, we look at I think Toyota. Especially, you look at what Toyota's done. I mean, most of those vehicles are going forever. They still have some pretty good range. And you're going to lose some range, but you're also not using the battery 100% of the time when you're using a PHEV. You're using it maybe 50, maybe 40. There's a lot of like sort of switching back and forth and how you're doing it. And I think you're probably going to be a bit more safe buying a PHEV if you can. I mean, I feel like leasing right now is almost sort of the power move, just because buying anything is so expensive. And there still are some lease deals that you can sort of get into that are from the manufacturer. So leasing might just be the way to go, period. If you need a car and you don't want to pay $20,000 above asking, or $15,000, or if when you're out there looking at what you want, see what the manufacturer is asking and just hammer that home when you go into a dealership. We're like, well, the manufacturer has this lease deal for this, and this, and then they're like, well, and just walk away, because someone will make that deal for you, because when you lease, they feel like they really got you. Because they know
3 years from now you're going to be back for something else.
Exactly, you're going to come back, and you're a repeat customer, as far as they're concerned when you lease. And also, you're someone who's going to come in for service, because you want to make sure that lease at the end of that 3 years, you're not going to incur any weird charges because you didn't take care of it or whatever. So, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it sounds like leasing may still be a good deal for you right now. In terms of the technology, it probably doesn't make much difference. I mean, one thing, just as with battery electrics, with a plug-in hybrid, plug-in hybrids are getting improved with better batteries, so you're getting more electric range. I think the 22 model Volvo plug-in hybrids all have higher capacity batteries now. So the range is going from like 18, 19 miles up to about 28, 29 miles for the 22 models. So, there's still some benefits to leasing even with a plug-in hybrid. All right. Reader Car Me on Twitter asks, thanks for answering my question. I agree that dealerships are terrible. Wish I could avoid them. Hyundai USA's website excludes the Ioniq 5, but thanks to you guys, I looked at my local dealer's webpage, and they have them in stock. Face with open. Face palm emoji in the tweet. I'm going to take a test drive. Says I rented a Tesla Model Y from Turo for a test drive and to run errands. It's the right size to replace a Prius. Supercharging may be a lock-in. There are no other fast chargers in Wyoming, which I drive to frequently, but the bad reliability and lack of repair parts is so scary. The Hyundai dealership wants a $1,000 deposit today to let me test drive the car in 2 weeks, and they're selling it for $5,000 over MSRP plus $700 dealership handling fee. And of course, they only have the top of the line model. Maybe I can get by without for a while. So as for the top of the line, that's actually, unfortunately, that's something that you'll find from most manufacturers when a model is brand new. They usually start off building the high-end trims, because the people that want them right away, tend to be willing to pay more. So they start off with the high-end trims and get the lower-end trims a few weeks or months later after launch. So I'm not surprised that they only have the limited for the Ioniq 5. $1,000 deposit, unless the deposit
test drive it.
Unless it's fully refundable. No, just no. Just go find another dealer somewhere. There's got to be another dealer. That's ridiculous. And then the $5,000 over sticker again. No. If you can wait. And
Reader Car Me makes a good point about the Tesla Model Y and the supercharging network. The supercharging network, that's the killer app for Tesla. And when it really comes down to it, I mean, yes, they have, these really great battery and engine engineering, but that supercharging network is just there are few. If someone had said to me, what's the easiest car for someone who's not going to be anal retentive about planning their route across America, what EV would you get? It would it would be the Tesla because of the supercharging network. So yeah, it's a tough thing. I mean, Electrify America is doing better. I'm seeing more and more Electrify America spots opening up, EV Go, ChargePoint. They're all sort of coming out with more stuff, and so it's getting better for everyone else. But yeah, that's supercharging network.
Well, yeah, and the challenge is still in some remote areas like Wyoming. I don't know if EA has any stations or if there's any other, fast charger, really fast chargers in Wyoming besides Tesla. That is the thing that Tesla has probably done better than anything else is proliferating that fast charging network. Making it accessible, and also making sure that it's relatively reliable. At times there have been issues with reliability of their chargers, but far less than with any of the other networks. So that's if you have to go someplace like that right now, that may be the better solution, or consider a plug-in hybrid. If you can get your hands on a Prius Prime or a Focus plug-in hybrid, or not a Focus, an Escape plug-in hybrid. Those are also really good options. That get you electric driving for the vast majority of your driving, and then when you need to take a long trip, you especially if you're going someplace relatively remote, you're going to have probably a much higher probability of finding gasoline than you are of finding a fast charger.
Yeah. Years ago, I wrote an article that Tesla should open up their charging network to other automakers or to other vehicles. And I talked to someone at Tesla about it. And it's really, it comes, there has to be a software handshake. It's not just like plugging it in. It's not like getting gas. Like the charger has to recognize the vehicle, which means Tesla would have to buy these vehicles or lease them or whatever in order to learn how to all of them do. But it's not, Electrify America does it, EVgo does it, everyone else does this. And then last year, it seemed like that was going to be a real option. Elon Musk tweeted we're going to allow, by the end of the year. Well, by the end of the year, the only thing they did is there's 2 chargers, I think, in Sweden.
I think it's in the Netherlands.
Or the Netherlands.
They've got some Netherlands.
Somewhere up north in Europe. That's the dumb American way of saying it. In Europe, they have two supercharger stations that are a part of a pilot program. Now, how soon that pilot program expands to other parts of Europe and then maybe eventually United States, who knows? Tesla's not exactly known for its speedy delivery on any sort of product or service.
Yeah, I think one thing that may prompt Tesla to speed up that process, especially later in the year, is when they start doing the grants for from the infrastructure package, infrastructure bill for public charging. I think Tesla is going to be applying for some of those grants to pay for some chargers in some of these areas. And in order to do that, the chargers have to be available to anyone to use. It can't be restricted. So that may be one thing that prompts them to speed up here. The part of the reason why they did it in Europe first is because in Europe they already have to use CCS charging connectors rather than their proprietary connector. So that simplifies it because you don't need an adapter for other cars to use the chargers. They can still plug in. Then you just have to take care of the software side of it.
Yeah.
And most likely, what they'll end up doing is, they'll have to publish some APIs, and then other manufacturers will have to make their cars compatible with the chargers, and they'll be responsible for testing them probably rather than Tesla testing them all.
It's money for them because they get to sell the adapters. So now everyone who buys a Taycan or Ioniq 5 has to buy now a Tesla adapter that goes from their Tesla proprietary to CCS, and then they get money for plugging it in. they're making, and they want to charge like a premium, and
they get higher utilization of the charging network. So,
but I got a lot of hate mail for that article though.
From
Tesla people who are just like, no, they don't have to do. I can't. I'm like, whoa. I thought you all cared about saving the world. Apparently not. Apparently they all just cared about being part of a special group. Because if you want to save the world, then you should make sure everyone you should be happy when anybody else is making an EV. You should be happy when everyone can charge all at the same time. You should, if that's your goal to quote unquote save the world, as people like to point that Elon Musk is doing, then it's not, saving the world in my special group. It's saving the world globally. But, what do I know?
Yeah.
I'm just a crazy guy.
All right. The last question is from JPM. What is the best technique for preserving brake pad life? Easing into the brakes and letting the car stop smoothly, or a hard brake with a more abrupt stop?
Never stop. That's
Just keep rolling.
Just keep rolling.
Never touch that brake pedal.
Never touch it.
It'll never wear out your brakes.
Buy an anchor that you throw out the back of the car whenever you get home. Never stop.
No, seriously though, regardless of what it does to your brake pad life, always go for easing into the brakes and letting the car stop smoothly. Hard braking with more abrupt stop is bad for your safety. It's bad for the safety of those around you. If you are always stopping at the last minute, anybody who's following behind you is more likely to rear end you. And also, anytime that there's any uncertainty about the traction of the road surface you're driving on, hard braking, waiting to the last minute to stop means that even with stability control and ABS and everything, those are limited to Newton's laws of motion. If you don't have friction, you're not stopping. And so it's always better to drive smoothly, ease into the brakes, let the car stop smoothly. Also, hard braking, you're more likely to generate a lot more heat in the brakes, which is also not good for the pads or your rotors. So, smooth driving is always, always, always better.
Yeah. The rotor. I mean, I think people don't think about the rotors. They're just like, oh, they're just pieces of metal. Like, no, you do a lot of hard braking, you're going to have a warped rotor, and then whenever you have a warped rotor, you know it. All of a sudden, your braking is all. You're like, you're trying to figure out what's going on, because, especially if you don't drive a lot of cars, you don't drive a lot of performance cars, or you've done that because of hard performance driving. You're like, what is happening? Why is my car every time is it the wheel? Is it that? Nope, your rotor shot. Now they got to read.
Get hard spots in those rotors. From the hot spots, and in many cases you can't even machine that out. You may just have to throw them away and get new ones.
Yeah, which is a bummer. Which a brake job is not that expensive. Well, I mean, if you do it at home, it's, first of all, changing your brakes at home is really, really easy.
Yeah, I mean, you can get a set of brake pads, general brake pads for $40-$50, and the associated parts.
It is. If you have all you need is I would recommend having a jack and a jack stand.
Absolutely.
And then some basic tools, and for the most part, it should be fun. Except for once when we did my friend's Jetta in the late 90s Jetta. For some reason, you had to get like a special tool to change the brake pads, but you could get it for free at like O'Reilly or whatever auto part. A lot of them, like, they have a tool loan program where you can just go and be like, hey, I want to borrow this tool. You give them a deposit, you borrow the tool, you change your brakes, you bring the tool back, they give you a deposit, easy peasy.
Yeah, back in about 91 when I was working for GM, working for Dalco on ABS systems, we were supporting Lotus Esprit race program, and we supplied the ABS for those cars in the SCCA World Challenge Series, and to save time for the team. On race weekends, one of the things that we did, we had one of their cars from the previous year out at Milford that we were using for testing, for tweaking the ABS calibrations. And so one of the things that I got to do was go out and bed in brake pads on the race car. And so I would go out, drive around for an hour, and do a sequence of stops at a certain speeds, certain decel, just to get the pads bedded in, and then bring it back into the garage, put it up on the hoist, pull the pads out, and the racing calipers, you just take the wheel off, pop the pads out, pop new pads in there, go out, do it again, spend a day doing that. That was fun.
That sounds like, yeah, that's cool. Because then you get to know whenever you see that car on the track, you're like, yeah, that guy's braking because of me. Because of me. Right. I broke those pads in for him.
Yep. All right. That's it for this week. Next week, we should have Nicole back as well. So thanks, everybody, and I'll talk to you next time.
Bye.
All you homeowners have unique needs. Some feel the need to paint their door a vibrant shade of blue. Others have the need to decorate their bathroom with fish, anchors, and other nautical items. And because each homeowner has unique needs, Geico helps you get the right coverage for your home and what's in it. That way, you get exactly what's right for you, even if your needs are unique. Get more with Geico.